Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Rights Matter podcast. My name is Gianna Bocastro, and I am your host. Hell yeah, we're going into episode 23. So cool. I want to end the season on a high note, so I think we'll be done in a few weeks. Of course, season 2 has been so much better than season 1. I love the guests that I had on this season. Hopefully I can get maybe one more before I end it. I'm starting a new job soon, next week. So doing that, plus trying to keep up with school, plus trying to pick a school to go to next year is all going to be so much. So by the end of March, the podcast season 2 will be over. Gianna, when are you going to start doing the podcast again? When's season 3 going to start? I hate to tell you this, everyone, but I have no idea. Shocking, right? I took a break. I stopped doing the podcast in, I believe it was July. And then I did my last episode at the old house that I was at, and then when I moved, I did my first episode here. Did I take like a month or two off? I ended in June. No, I think the Challenge Cup was in July. Was it? I'm checking. Oh my god, I'm so mad. I can't remember my own stuff. Oh well. When did I... Season opener was in... It was in... Oh, okay. So my season 1 finale was on August 14th. That's fun. Season 2 trailer came out in October. A month before I came back, which was... I came back the week of Thanksgiving of last year, so the Thanksgiving of 2020, and November 24th. So we've been doing this from November to March. Of course, I've taken multiple weeks off, so I should have roughly about 30 episodes, but this is number 23. But we're not talking about the podcast today. But before I stop talking about the podcast, I would like to say, when we come up on a full year of that, I wanna make an episode about, how far I've come. And it's been a year. That's gonna be in May. May 5th is when I posted the very, very, very first episode. May 5th, 2020. It's 11 minutes long, 11 minutes, 52 seconds long. It has 37 plays according to Anchor. If you want to if you want to listen to younger me, younger, naive me, check that out. It's my second most listened to episode, besides Branching Out, which has like over 40 plays. I'm not a fan of my beginning episodes, and I'll tell you why before we get started, before we really get into what I want to talk about today, because it's so important. 47 plays. Wow. I wish we could get it to 50, though. Like, that'd be kind of cool. This is a small podcast, but, no, I'm just... Being able to talk about things I'm not usually, like, gonna talk with people IRL has been fun. Hearing people say, "Oh my god, Gianna, like, I didn't know this. Thank you for sharing it with me." Or like, what you're doing is so cool. Thank you. I don't take compliments well, and I'll tell you why. I hate compliments, but like, I also love them because I like hearing them, but I'm kind of awkward about it. I'm just awkward. And I know I'm supposed to say, like, thank you, but I kind of freeze up and I'm like, okay. 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 But again, this is not what today's about. I just did like a little ramble, a little bit about the pod, you know. I love this pod so much. I don't know when I'm going to restart though, because I took a massive break. I went from August to November. So August, September, October, November. I took a 4-month break. So if I end in March, if I end at the end of March and I come back for the May episode, it's been a year, you know. Maybe, well, that's weird. It won't have a season to go with it. Do I just keep going until May? You know what? Season finale is going to be in 2 months from now, everyone, because I'm so cool. When is this flipping? When is my anniversary? Oh my god. It's on a Wednesday? That sucks. Maybe I'll do a special Wednesday episode. It's like the second week of May, basically. The first is on a Saturday, so then maybe it's the first week of. Who knows how calendars work? I can go for another month, maybe. I don't know. It depends on school, everyone. Who cares, right? But this is not what we're talking about today. 7-minute long intro. That's pretty damn long. So today we are going to be talking about something very important and something that has gained a lot of traction lately within state houses and state senates, you know, and nationally. Anti-trans bills. Yes, we're going. We're going. It's just we're covering some really, really horrible stuff here. But I'm gonna say it right now, and if you don't believe this, then you can stop listening to my podcast. Trans women are women. Trans men are men. You can't tell me otherwise. Plain and simple. We're gonna be talking about anti-trans sports bills, which are mostly geared towards trans women, of course. And we're gonna be talking about anti-trans bills that deal with, you know, like transitioning, hormonal therapy, blocking kids from getting the help that they need and deserve. But before we get into all that, let's take a little break. I know, such a long opening. I'm so sorry for rambling about the podcast. But we've come a long way, and I've been sitting here not knowing what to do for another episode, and I was like, I have to talk about the anti-trans bills that these states are trying to pass because it's sad. Imagine being told that you can't play a sport because you finally found like the gender that you feel comfortable with. And they're like, nope, sorry, can't play. Because guess what? Your genitalia is wrong. Like, who the hell? Who cares? Why does that matter? Someone tell me why it matters, please. Ugh, it's so bad. Like, it's none of your business. Okay? These lawmakers, first they want to, like, ban abortion. Okay. That's a little bit too much if you ask me. And then they want to ban people from playing sports? What? Let the kids play. I don't see anything wrong with it. But let me calm down before we go into it, and let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Anchor. Let's hear this beautiful, beautiful ad read from yours truly. Play that ad read.
Hey everyone, it's Gianna Castro from the Women's Sports Matter podcast, and today I'm going to be discussing the sponsor of this show, Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
What another beautiful ad read from yours truly. Before we get started into this, I also want to bring up another thing. I was looking through, I can see basically where people listen from, not in like a creepy way, just like list countries and stuff. And I see that I have new listeners in Spain and Mexico, so that's really cool. I think I'm up to 17 countries now that have listened to my pod. So thank you so much for doing that. You can follow me on social media too, at WSM Podcast for Twitter and Women's Sports Matter on Instagram. Okay. I am tired of conservatives trying to control people's bodies. Is that controversial? I don't know. Listen, the whole abortion thing has been like, I don't know, something that has been talked about in my life forever now. I feel like I've been hearing about it since I was little, but I never had a full understanding until high school. Maybe my junior, senior year. I mean, I don't have a full understanding of it, but I have more knowledge than ever before, if that makes sense. So with the whole like abortion thing, it's making it harder to get birth control, or I think it's an IUD, or I think that's what it's called. I have no idea. I don't freaking use one. It's getting like not funding Planned Parenthood, which does so much for a lot of people. It does cancer screenings. You can get your flu shot there. You can get your checkup there. It's more than an abortion clinic. But I can make a whole nother episode about that. Maybe for like an off-topic discussion. Because when I talked about it with Zach, with my branching out episode, I was a little fed up. And like every time I see my pro-life friends posting on their stories about Planned Parenthood, it's like, guys, why don't you go inside one? The people outside of Planned Parenthood harassing people who just want to live their lives, it's sad. Like, yeah, you do have the right to protest, but threatening these people who are trying to go inside a Planned Parenthood. I've seen tweets from people like a few years ago about how they went to go for their cancer screening, and it was just them being berated by pro-lifers for even wanting to go in there, and they tried blocking the entrance and stuff like that. Reading that made me upset because it's none of people's business of why you go into any doctor anyway. And I feel like there should be the same respect there, because Planned Parenthood has doctors. They do freaking cancer screenings. It's more than just abortion. I don't know if this is like controversial or whatever, but well, it is Gianna, it's controversial, okay? Planned Parenthoods need to stay. Um, we need more access to birth control. And you cannot ban abortions. Because when you ban abortions, guess what? You're not actually banning abortions, you're banning legal abortions. So guess what people are going to do? They're going to try and find a way to kill the clump of cells that is in there, because most abortions I believe, are within the first trimester. Um, and they're so rarely within the third. But it's gonna lead to deaths. People are going to, how do I put this in a way that isn't shoot. People are gonna die. People are gonna die. Whether I have to be careful with my language because I don't know how to put this. Trigger warning, okay? It's either gonna end in suicide because they feel like what's inside of them is a burden, or they're gonna find a way to do it illegally and die, or end up like having to go to the hospital or something like that. Trigger warning is over. So the same thing is what happens with these anti-trans bills. If trans people don't get the hormones that they need or the therapy that they need, we are going to have kids that are going to die. They're going to become suicidal. They're going to feel like they are a burden. They're going to feel like that no one wants them because the state says so, basically, right? With their laws. And we'll lose another trans person. It's really sad. It's so sad. But let's talk about all of the states that are going to ban medically necessary healthcare, which is hormones and blockers for trans youth, and it'll criminalize doctors who continue to provide this care. So there are 17 states trying to ban healthcare for trans youth. We have Montana, Utah, Arizona, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and Florida. Oh, and New Hampshire. So, these bills, like I said before, or have been trying to describe, are so transphobic, and it's really bad because they're defining sex based on chromosomes, reproductive anatomy, testosterone levels. And sex hasn't been defined in law this way before. So it's like an entirely new thing that Republicans are doing. Of course it's the Republicans. Because they only care about themselves. Whew. and this is really sad because I know people that have transitioned, and some of them haven't had supportive families, and some of them had. So I don't know what these people go through, but blocking something like this, you're gonna end up with a lot of deaths, and you're gonna be these lawmakers are gonna be blamed for it because they could have stopped this. They could have not brought it up. Um, I don't know why it affects them so much. What did a trans person ever do to you? And I also hate when people are like, they're like 7 years old. How do they know? How do they know that um they're trans? How do you know if you're transgender? That's a great question. So obviously y'all can do this on your own. Um, but let me spell it out for you. Okay, so we can get some like um knowledge up in here. Guess what website I'm on? PlannedParenthood.org. Mother truckers. Let's just read this whole thing. Maybe. Some of it. Identifying as transgender or trans means knowing that your gender identity is different than the sex assigned to you at birth. Again, let's all remember that gender and sex are two different things. Sex is assigned at birth, gender is a social construct. Cool. Very cool. For example, it could mean that you were assigned male at birth, but you now know that your gender identity is female. It could also mean that you were assigned male or female at birth, but you understand that your gender identity is neither one or the other. In that case, your gender identity might be best described as non-binary, aka me, mother truckers. Remember that I use they, them pronouns now, so if you use the wrong pronouns, I will end you. Just kidding. Moving on. Many people know that they're trans from a very young age, even as young as age 3. That is insane. I didn't think it would be that low, but that's kind of cool though. I also saw a video from ASAP Science, which it was talking about like the science behind transitioning and how like parts of your brain like actually go with the gender that you know that you should should be. It's very cool. I may have to stop recording so I can watch it and explain it again, because I saw it earlier, but I need a little refresher. Of course, education is the best way to know how to deal with this stuff. Of course, that's why I'm reading this. For others, it may not be something they fully understand about themselves until later in life. It's okay not to know or to be questioning your gender identity. No matter what, your gender identity is valid. Again, gender is a social construct. Sex is what you're assigned at birth. Sex is biological. Gender is psychological, basically. So, when they say trust the science about trans people, tell the lawmakers to read a freaking book. Moving on. Here are some things that may help you better understand your gender identity and if you might be transgender. Talks about writing in a journal, talking to a friend or a family member, reading about other people within the community, talking to a counselor or therapist. There's an overview for this. Again, being transgender is about gender identity. There was an outdated term used to describe trans people, but I'm not going to say it because I'm not a loser, and I'm not mean because I think it's a slur. But I think it refers to sex instead of gender. So bad on so many levels. But whatever. Um let's see if anything else is important. Ah, yes. Gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is a term that psychologists and doctors use to describe the distress, unhappiness, and anxiety that transgender people may feel about the mismatch between their bodies and their gender identity. Again, the use of gender here, not sex. Cool. Count how many times I say the word gender. I hope someone is keeping track. Person may be formally diagnosed with gender dysphoria in order to receive medical treatment to help them transition. Psychologists used to call this gender identity disorder. However, the mismatch between a person's body and gender identity isn't itself a mental illness, but it can cause emotional distress, so the term was changed to reflect that. Let's see. And yeah. So that was a nice little overview, right? So let's go back to what we were talking about before. Transitioning, hormones, blah blah blah. Kids know by age 3. Some, not all. Imagine like your 3-year-old comes up to you. They're like, "Mama, Dada, I'm not a boy. I'm a girl." Like imagine. I want to meet a 3-year-old that knows, because I think that's so cool. That's freaking rad. I'm trying my best not to swear. I've been swearing all day. But that's besides the point. Cool. Yeah, thank you, Planned Parenthood. I'll link this down below so you can read it up yourselves. But long story short, banning the therapies, the hormones, and the blockers is going to do a lot of damage. Or as Phil Swift from, what is it, Flex Tape, the whatever the frick it is, that's a lot of damage. Me to Republican lawmakers. That's a lot of damage. Me when I run for office one day against like freaking Republicans. That's a lot of damage. Okay, I'm done with that. That's retired. Let's talk about trans women in sports. Does that sound like fun? Because I think it's super fun. Trans women in sports, anyone? Let's read the statistics. Or well, basically what this is it's gonna prevent trans girls from playing on girls' sports teams. Gender is a social construct. Okay, cool. Trans women are women. Trans men are men. Cool. Here are the 25 states that are trying to stop trans girls from playing sports. Remember, the first thing we talked about had 17? Oh boy, do we have an increase. Let's start from the left side of the country to the right. Montana, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. You think that Connecticut would be okay, right? What the hell? That is messed up. New Mexico? Like what? Okay, I would just like to make an announcement real quick. The bill in South Dakota actually passed, and the governor of South Dakota is so excited to sign it. Freaking bull. Okay? In the COVID relief bill that the 117th Congress was going over the amendments and stuff, I believe the senator from Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, I am mistaken probably, was it, who was it? Was it Roy Blunt? No. I think it was that guy from Kansas. I don't know. It was someone from one of those two states, and they tried adding, like trans girls can't play in girls' sports. It was it's so ridiculous that they tried doing that. And like all the Republicans except for I don't know, 2, maybe 3 in the House were like, we want our religious rights and freedoms. Y'all hide behind your faith. Y'all are cowards, first of all. Using Christianity to be like, I can be homophobic and transphobic because Jesus and God. This is why I left the Catholic Church. This exact reason. Hiding behind your faith. To be a bigot is not worth it, everyone. Okay. You're supposed to love all, man. Y'all ain't showing it. Y'all are fake Christians, fake Catholics, fake religious people, period. I've seen it a lot within Christianity and Catholics. I don't know about other religions. But saying stupid stuff just to be on the news is getting ridiculous. And yeah. But going back to trans girls being banned, I forgot which state this was in. I think it was in a southern state where, I think it was in Georgia, but I don't know. Where basically a Democratic state representative was like, do you have any examples of, you know, trans girls like dominating or like winning every competition against girls? And the old white guy from the Republican Party goes, no, I don't have any proof. What? At least if you're gonna try and pull this shit, you should at least have some evidence. I don't think it was in Georgia. It might have been. I don't remember. But like, at least try if you're gonna do something like this. I'm not encouraging. But this is so pathetic. And the fact like that none of these states have any like evidence of this being a problem. And it's still gonna get passed in a lot of Republican states. And I just think this is so ridiculous. So ridiculous on so many levels. But to sum up from what Chase Strangio, who is an ACLU lawyer, says about this, sports are an entry point to exclude gender variant bodies from protection and then weaponize that in other contexts. This surveillance targets the people most vulnerable, people in homeless shelters and ICE detention. So these laws are going to pass. I know that it's definitely going to happen in South Dakota, and it's really unfortunate, but you guys listening, whether you're a teenager like me, you are, I don't know what 12-year-old will be listening to this. Whether you're in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, just got out of college, you're a millennial, you're like in your 70s or whatever, your voice matters. My friend Georgia said it the best the other day. Voting is the best form of protest. So the one thing to do would to be to get out and vote if you can. Of course, under every episode is a vote.org link where you can register to vote. I'll never take that away. I'll never take that out because voting is so important. Like, my mom was excited to vote in the past election so we can get the orange out of the White House. But also, like, I wanted to vote for my representative and I wanted her to win. And guess what? She won re-election. And then my district my state representative seat got flipped to Democratic, the Democratic nominee. So that was pretty cool. But vote, so important. Also, if you're in these states, um, the ones that I mentioned, of course, and you know this is happening, and you're like, Gianna, what can I do? What can I do to stop this? Call your representatives, email your representatives, and don't do it just once. If I were you, I would just keep doing it every day until you get a response or something like that. Um, Call your representatives, leave them voicemails, get their voicemail box filled, send them emails, go to their offices and give them a petition that you had people in your district sign to tell them not to vote. Or guess what? If they don't listen to the people because they were elected by the people, they're getting voted out. So this stuff all connects in the end. Um, and of course, you can donate to trans-led organizations, support trans kids, and post on your social medias. Post about trans awareness. Um, just get people talking so people know what is happening is unfair. I know for me, growing up, sports was a way to get away from life. And if I didn't have that, I would have I would have lost my mind. I don't know where I would be today without sports. Sports has done a lot for me. And you may be asking, Gianna, where did you get all today's information from? I actually saw a friend's story of mine. She reposted Trans Boy Comics on Instagram. That's where I got all my information from today. So shout out to them. I'm actually gonna repost this on my personal Instagram. But since I'm talking about Instagram, follow the podcast Instagram Women's Sports Matter Podcast. Whoop. Um, but yeah, follow Transboy Comics. Um, they're really good at showing informative stuff like this. All of my talking points were from them today. I know, not original. I did read off of Planned Parenthood, but I needed to read off stuff today because I didn't want to get anything about this wrong or incorrect because it's not my place to talk about it because I'm not trans. I don't know what it's like for people to go through this. So, yeah. Um I'm excited to see what I'm going to do next. I said I was going to talk about the NWSL Challenge Cup. But the schedule was released today as I'm recording, March 9th. And I think a month from today will be the start. So, of course, they release a schedule. I think I might do something next week about that. I don't know. Who knows? Am I right? I am right. But if there's anything you can take away from this, voting is the best form of protest. My friend Georgia said it perfectly. Also, call your representatives, email your representatives, write your representatives, stage a sit-in or something. Tell them to not let these bills pass because they shouldn't pass because number one, they're transphobic. Number two, they're hurting their own constituents. Number three, people forget that these people are people. And I don't care whether you're trans, I don't care whether you're non binary, I don't care if you're straight, I don't care if you're gay, we're all people. And all this anti LGBTQ plus legislation has got to go. And I would like to say before I end this, if you don't include trans people in your feminism, trans woman in your feminism, you're a TERF and you're not a real feminist. Include every woman in your feminism. So, again, this is the Women's Sports Matter podcast. My name is Gianna Belcastro, and I am your host. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode about 2 different kinds of anti-trans bills that are happening in at least 17 plus states. If you want to learn more, I have some links down below. You can follow me on Twitter at WSM Podcast and on Instagram, Women's Sports Matter. I'm on YouTube, the Women's Sports Matter Podcast, where I post my episodes as well. We're still in a pandemic, so y'all know what we have to do. Wear a mask, wash your hands, social distance when you can. Thank you so much for listening. I know this was a long episode and whatever, but it's important to talk about. If you ever want to email me about this or whatever, that's so cool. I would love to have a guest on about this kind of thing. But thank you so much. See you guys next time.